Hello guys, this is Hope. In this video tutorial, we're going to look at how to get started using Microsoft PowerPoint in the classroom. And this is basically the beginner's guide to using PowerPoint. So if you've never used PowerPoint, or if you've maybe used it a little bit, but been kind of intimidated by it, this is the video for you. Do not hesitate to subscribe, share, like and comment. Also hit the notification bell to be informed when next we post. Let's get started using PowerPoint. I'm just going to go down here, and I've got mine pinned to the taskbar down here, and you can see that this is PowerPoint 2016. If not, you can visit the link in the description to watch how to install Microsoft Office 360 for free. I'm just going to go ahead and click on it to open it up. Now, even though this is PowerPoint 2016, if you have an older version of PowerPoint, this video is still a good one to watch, because the same basic functionality will still work in older versions of PowerPoint going back all the way to about 2007. So if your version of PowerPoint is 2007 or newer, you're good to go with this tutorial. Now, what if you have a future version of PowerPoint that comes out maybe in 2018 or whatever? Same thing applies. This video will probably still be very applicable and very much useful to you and your version of PowerPoint. And now, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And that's also true of Mac. If you have PowerPoint on the Mac, it's going to be a little different, but I still hope that you'll enjoy watching this presentation and that it'll be applicable to you. So as you can tell, PowerPoint has loaded up. And at this point, I can do one of a couple of different things. I could simply click where it says blank presentation and get started using PowerPoint. And most often, that's what I do. That's the most common option, at least for me. But if I prefer, I could go over here and select one of these different templates or styles, and it will get the template details. And then if I like it, I can choose to create a presentation in that style. And so that's another option that you do have, is to pick one of these pre-made templates. Is really what they are, templates. So I could pick one of those, create it, and begin making a PowerPoint. Another thing you can do is go up to the top here and click search for online templates and themes. So I could click there and do a search for, let's say, a business presentation. And it's looking online to see if there are any PowerPoint templates or themes that might fit that description of business presentation. And as you can see, it found several results. And I could go ahead and click. Let's say I like this one. I could click to create a presentation based on that template. So it's definitely worth looking through these results, searching here and looking at the templates that are available here. But like I said, more often than not, I just open up PowerPoint and I click Blink Presentation. That opens up PowerPoint. And let's take a minute to talk about the layout that we have to work with here. And there's some terminology that you'll need to know. First, we have tabs across the top. Each of these is a tab. And when you click on a tab, it gives you a series of tools on something that they call the ribbon. Okay, so I click the Home tab. It gives me the Home ribbon and I get a whole bunch of these tools. Now, these tools are organized and grouped together in groups. So we have a Slides group. We have a Clipboard group, a Font group, a Paragraph group. If I click on the Design tab, I get a Themes group, a Variants group, and a Customized group, and so forth. And so it's important to know that terminology. Now, a few of these groups also have a little button called the Launch button. And the purpose of the Launch button is this. Microsoft has tried to put all of the options for fonts, for example, here in this group. But there are too many options to fit. They just don't fit in the space available. And so if you click in a text area and then click on that Launch button, it launches additional options that you can use that couldn't fit in such a small space here. And so that's the purpose of the Launch button. So to review, we have tabs. Each tab gives us a ribbon. The ribbon is made up of groups, and some of the groups have launch buttons. Okay, that's enough talk about the layout of PowerPoint itself. But now let's look at the components of my actual presentation. Here we have on the screen a slide. This is slide number 1. And this is where I can do the editing for this slide. On the left side of the screen, I have a little thumbnail of the same slide. So this small rectangle represents this larger slide. And to begin creating my PowerPoint, it's as simple as clicking here where it says double tap to add title. So I'll just click there and add the title of my presentation, which is going to be the types of fruits. Okay, so I just type that right in, and then I can click here to add a subtitle. And this could be my name. It could be the class that this is part of, or it could be something else. In this case, I just need a second title. So types of fruits, a review. So I am basically done now with slide number 1. The downside though is this slide looks kind of plain. Okay, It's just black and white, mostly white, and that just doesn't look that great. So in order to remedy that situation, I'm just going to go up here where it says design, and I click and there's a bunch of design themes that I can choose from. Now these themes, it looks like there's 7 of them, 7 or 8, but I can click here on this arrow, and that gives me many, many more to choose from. Now, if this still isn't enough, remember that back on that first screen, when I open up PowerPoint, there were options to look online to get additional themes. So don't worry if you think that this is not enough themes. There's so many more that I can get online and use in PowerPoint. Alright, I'm going to go with this one here, but there's so many different nice themes to choose from. And as you can see, when you put your mouse over them, you get a preview of what they would look like. And so it's really handy and nice to be able to just get a sense of what your presentation would look like with different themes. I'm going to stick with this one. So I click on it and it's applied to this slide. Great. So I am done with slide 1. Now I want to create slide number 2. But how do I do that? Well, there's a couple of different ways. First, I could go to the Home button and go to the Home ribbon. And what Microsoft has done is they've put all of the most commonly used and needed features here on the Home ribbon. So when you click Home, you're getting the most common features, the best stuff. That's used the most. And that's where I'll find New Slide. So I click New Slide and it gives me a slide number 2. Now you'll notice a difference between slide 2 and slide 1. Slide 1 is set up to be the title slide of this presentation. And so the text is specifically placed in a different area of the screen to show that this is special. This is the opening slide, the title slide. But I'm going to go back to slide number 2 and you can see it's different. Okay, so I will click to add my title. And you know what? I'm noticing this is kind of a funny layout. I was not expecting this, but the title is at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so let's say I want to focus on nouns. I can just type the nouns and my title is at the bottom. To be honest, this is just a little bit too radical for me. So in just a minute, you can just change it up. But for now, I'm just clicking to put in the content. In addition to this title of this slide, I'll just put an apple, oranges, mangoes, and watermelon. It could be anything you want. So there we go. I'm done with this second slide, but to be honest, this is too much for me. I'm not used to having the title of the individual slide at the bottom of the screen. So I'm just going to have to go back up to design, and I'm going to have to pick a different design theme, maybe this one. But isn't that nice that you can change your mind at any time in the creation process? And even after you've used the presentation with a class, if you decide, no, that didn't quite work the way I was hoping, just go in, choose a different theme and it reorders everything. Notice that my text moved. The fonts all changed, and it was done very easily. So I like the look of that a little bit better. I guess I'm a traditionalist. Okay, so that is one way to add another slide. You just go to the Home tab, Home ribbon, in the Slides group, you click New Slide. Now, some of these buttons, especially the larger buttons in PowerPoint, will have 2 parts to the button. They don't all have it, but many do. The top part is just a simple one-click option. If I click here, I'll get a new slide. But the bottom part, if you click, gives you additional options. So watch for that. Sometimes the additional options are pretty exciting. So for example, if I just click New Slide, it gives me a generic blank new slide. But if I go here to the bottom part of the button, I click, and I can get a slide that's good for comparison. It's got 2 sections, and I can compare and contrast these 2 items. Here's an option for picture with a caption. Here's an option for a picture column. So some nice options here that I might otherwise miss if I hadn't clicked on the bottom part of the big button. So watch for that. Now, I do want to show you another way to add a new slide to my presentation. And to be honest, this is what I do more often than not. And so for me, that's a shortcut. It's easier for me just because I don't have to go all the way up here. I know I'm kind of lazy that way, but that's what I prefer. Just right-clicking and choosing New Slide. Okay, now I've got too many slides. So I'm just going to delete using Delete on the keyboard. Or you can also right-click and choose Delete Slide. Okay, next up, before I go on to this third slide, I'm going to jump back to slide number 2 because I want to add some visual elements to this presentation. Honestly, when it comes to PowerPoint, way too many people use way too many words in their PowerPoint presentations. And that's why PowerPoint gets to become somehow complex and somehow you know. But yet, we can use PowerPoint effectively. It's meant to be a visual tool. But if all we do is put text on the slides and especially put lots of text, it'll drive people crazy. and you're missing out on the potential power of PowerPoint. So let's look at how to add some visual elements to this in addition to the theme, the background that's here. Well, what I would do to add some visuals is click here on Insert. And when I do that, it gives me a bunch of different things I can insert. In this session, I'm going to focus just on a few of these. And let's focus right now on images. So I can go here in the Images group, and I'm going to click on Pictures. So Insert Pictures. And from here, I'm going to just quickly here jump to Photos. And I'm going to find a few photos to add. Okay, so here's one. A nice cheerful image to choose here, I know. But anyway, this is an example of a fruit, right? So I'm going to stash that there. And because this photo was on my computer, it was easy for me to click Insert Pictures and find it and upload it. But I don't know if I have a picture of other fruits on my computer. I don't know if I've got that. Well, look, here in the Images group, there is an option for online pictures. And this is really good. Just click that, and Microsoft will open up a portal, basically, to the internet. And you can do searches from right within PowerPoint. And you can find images to use. And notice it is a Bing image search, which makes sense being Microsoft PowerPoint. So I'm going to do a search for other fruits. So watermelon. So I select that image, I click Insert, and that image is added to my presentation. Isn't that nice? And I can do the same to find an example of a fruit. I'll just do a search for mangoes. And you'll notice that things are loading faster now. The first time that you insert an online picture, it may be a little delayed. So don't be discouraged if that first time it's kind of slow. So here's a nice picture of a mango that I'd like to use. So I just clicked on it to select it and I click Insert. And it pulls that image into my presentation. Now, you probably noticed that I'm resizing these images just by clicking on the corner. You'll notice that there are handles. And that's what they are called. That's the official term. And each of these handles will change the image in some way. So you can see that one distorted it. And so I want to actually undo that change. Up here in the upper left corner, there is an undo button. So I can click that to undo, and that's fixed the mistake that I made. There is also a redo button that will appear only after you undo something. All right, so there's my image. I'm going to make it a little smaller again. And then you may notice that some of these images, actually all of them, I believe, when you click on them, get this arrow, this circular arrow at the top. When you click on that circular arrow, it gives you the ability to very easily rotate the image so that you can tilt it if you'd like to. So I've got a person. I've got a place. I've got an apple. What about a watermelon? So I'll click to add mangoes. Now I would argue that this is still a thing, but that's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and add that anyway. So now I've got these 4 images, one for apple, one for oranges, one for mangoes, and one for watermelon. So let's try out this presentation so far. I'm going to click back to slide number 1, and I'll go down to the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to click here where it has this slideshow symbol, and I'll click, and it starts my slideshow. So the types of fruits, a review. Remember, this is my title slide. I want to advance now to the first real content slide. To do that, I just tap on the keyboard, and I like to tap the right arrow on the keyboard. So you just tap that, and it advances the slide. The left arrow reverses and goes back 1 slide at a time. You can also use the down arrow and the up arrow to do the same thing, but I prefer the right arrow and the left. Some people actually prefer spacebar. If you tap spacebar, it advances the slide, which is nice because the spacebar is a big button. You can also hit enter. So there's several different ways that you can advance this slide. For most teachers, presenters, and business people, most of us end up getting a presenter remote, which is kind of a nice thing. So I'm liking this presentation so far. I think it looks great, but it's got some issues. And the main thing for me is how do I display these pictures in a way that's not so cluttered, that makes more sense with the text on the screen. So I'm going to get out of presentation mode by tapping escape on the keyboard in the upper left corner. That gets me out and back into editing mode. Here in editing mode, let's see what I can do. First off, it might be a good idea to separate these words so that they are spaced a little further apart. So to do that, I can just click after apple, hit enter, and notice it wants another bullet there. But if I hit enter again, then it doesn't. To do that a couple times, I'll probably run out of room. And I did run out of room. So did you see what happened? The font of the words got smaller. Now, one thing to remedy that, if I wanted to, I could stretch out the text box. The space available to me gets bigger and so the words are able to be bigger. Now with that, I have a lot more space to work with. It still may not be enough to make it so that everything will fit with the pictures and everything, but it is an improvement. And so now I can shrink down the images a little more and just make it a little more likely. I just clicked and dragged so far the left that he flipped. So anyway, that's a lot better. I still feel like I'm cramped for space, but at least that's better. Now, an alternative option would be to just put apple and your oranges together. And then I could insert a text box, click and type the word place. So basically, I don't have to stick to having text just here at the left. I can match it up so that there's text directly with the pictures that I choose. In this case though, I'm fine with having everything mostly at the left of the screen. So there's the apple, there's the oranges, there's the mangoes, and there's the watermelon. So that fits fairly well. Okay, the other thing I can do to spice this up and to make it so that it's less cluttered, I guess, is I can add some animation. And to do that, you're going to want to go here to the Animations tab. That brings up the Animations ribbon and I can start to animate these items on the screen. Now, you'll notice most of these options are grayed out, but here's a good option, Animation Pane. If I click on that, a panel opens up on the side and that's going to come in handy as we get started. Okay, if I want these things to be active so that I can use them, what I need to do is click. Click on something, whether it's text or whether it's picture or whatever it might be. So I'm going to click here on our person. And now, notice what I can do. I can choose an animation style. Okay, and there are lots of these. And one thing that beginners to PowerPoint are tempted to do is to try out every single one of these. Okay, I can make these pictures swivel in and swing in. I can have them zoom in, grow and turn. And some of these are just awesome. They look great. But to be honest with you, more often than not, the best option is just appear or fade or something a little more subtle so that it doesn't distract and detract from your main points. I'm going to go with appear. So now this image will be animated. Next up, I'll click on the second image and choose appear for that one and the same for each of the other images. Okay, so let's go back and try the whole presentation and see what it looks like. There's my title slide. There's my first content slide. Apple, oranges, mangoes, watermelon. Every time I tap to advance the presentation, one of the pictures is animated and brought into the scene. I'm going to click escape. All right. So I want to also point out with animations in addition to just adding the kind of animation. When you've got a certain animation selected, you can look up here and you can see some options for it. So this animation will happen on a click. So when I click or when I tap to advance the slide, that's when the picture gets animated. If I want to change that, I could make it animate with previous or after previous. Now there is nothing previous to this. So I'm going to go down here to my second animation and I'm going to change it from on click to with previous, just so you can see what that does. You can also put in some delays, which is kind of interesting. And in a future more advanced video, maybe in the intermediate or one of the advanced ones that I'll make, I'll show you how that can be really useful and helpful to put in delays from time to time. So let me try it again. I'm just going to go down, click the Start Presentation button. So now I press and they are both animated at the same time. Why? Because I selected the animation for this second image and told it to animate with the previous animation. So at this point, you really do know everything you need to know to get started using PowerPoint. You know how the screen is laid out. You know how to choose a design theme. You know how to click to add text to the slides. You know how to insert images, whether from your computer or from online pictures. You know how to add animations to your presentations. And I also threw in a couple of other items like inserting text boxes and how to use the undo button. And of course, we also learned how to add new slides to a presentation. So at this point, I could just continue to click and create slide after slide. I could just continue to click to add titles for the slides. So the verbs click to add content. And I could just continue to develop this nice presentation. When I am completely finished, what do I need to do? I need to go here to File. Okay. And File looks like a tab just like all the rest of these tabs. But it's actually a little different. When you click on File, it doesn't open up a ribbon. It takes you to this screen with a panel at the left. It gives you some options for protecting the presentation. If you want to, I don't ever do this, but it might make sense for you to look into that. It gives you some properties of your presentation. But for the most part, this is what you're looking for. You go to the File option in order to save what you've been working on or maybe to open a presentation that you've made in the past. So I'm going to go down and click Save, and I can save to just this computer if I want to, or I could save to my OneDrive account. If you're not familiar with OneDrive and if you're using PowerPoint, you've got to become familiar with OneDrive. It's a great tool and it integrates well with Microsoft Office, including PowerPoint. In this case, though, I'm just going to save to this PC, so I double-clicked on that, and it opened up with some options. I can save it here in Documents, and I'll call it the parts of speech. PowerPoint automatically put that title in for me, and I'll click Save, and that's now saved to my documents on my computer. So now, when I close PowerPoint, that presentation is already saved. In the future, I can just click PowerPoint to open it up, and look, there's a list of recent documents that I have made, or opened on my computer. I do want you to see that there's a little push pin here. If you click on that push pin, it will pin this document at the top of the list. So if this is a particularly important presentation that I'll need over and over, and that maybe I'll continue to work on, I usually like to pin it so that I can easily find it again. And now, also, when I click on File and click Open, there it is, and it's pinned. I can also pin or unpin from the File menu also. So I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation on PowerPoint, and please do subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos about technology and finance.